Auburn has the number one class at the portal, and they're not slowing down. Welcome on into the Auburn Express, powered by the War Report. I'm your host, Mike G. And joining me, as he will every week this offseason, is my guy, Daryl Dapprich, guest of Locked On Auburn. And Daryl, let's talk portal. Auburn is on fire in the portal right now. According to the On3 portal rankings, Auburn has the number one class right now in the country in the portal. A number of kids have chosen to leave Auburn. I keep saying, with high-level recruiting comes high-level attrition, and fans just need to get used to guys exiting the program. But these kids coming in look like they're going to fill a lot of needs for Hugh Freeze.
Yeah, no one needs to panic and just pump the brakes. When you see people leave, automatically it goes to the negative. But if you're bringing in high-level talent, you understand that you're churning the roster. And I would say it's a roster that went 5-7 last year. So if you want to upgrade, there's going to be some departures. There's going to be some enhancements. There are always going to be kids, Mike, that you don't want to leave. We know that. There will be a couple of kids that jump in that you're like, really, I don't care if there was an upgrade in mind. We didn't want. And I think the Amaris Williams news that came out last night was so welcome because of that. That was one guy nobody wanted to leave. I don't think Walker White is somebody that people wanted to leave because of depth in the quarterback room. But at the end of the day, Hugh Freeze said last year, you were sitting right next to me when he said it. He admittedly said, I've got to get better in the portal. That's an area that I want to improve, that I'm navigating, is the words that he used. And when he hired Will Redmond, that was the first parting shot that, yes, we're about to become completely different in the portal. We're going to be a lot more aggressive. And I think everyone would agree it's night and day from the last couple of years. And I think that one common denominator, that one X factor, has been Redmond, because Auburn has become portal kings this year. And when you combine that with recruiting, it's a nice hybrid.
Kyle Rush, our guy Kyle Rush, talks all the time about Will Redmond and what a great job he's doing in recruiting, Daryl. So Will Redmond, one of those secret weapons in Hugh Freeze's arsenal there that's helping get these guys in. But talking about the guys who are coming in here, look, we all know who's going out. I think that the biggest shock to a lot of fans was Walker White. Walker decided to hit the portal. A lot of guys felt like he was running from competition. I've got a little bit of the inside scoop. I've got a lot of bit of the inside scoop there. He's definitely not running for competition. I don't blame any of these guys for doing what they feel like is in their best interest. But one of the things kind of related to quarterback that Auburn is addressing in the portal is offensive line. Now, I say this all the time too. There are not a ton of great offensive linemen in the portal every portal season. If you're an offensive lineman, they'll come get you where you are, right? You can block where you are regardless of how things are going. If you're good, they're going to find you at the next level. But Auburn has seemed to find some studs here, offensive line, starting with Xavier Chaplin.
What I like about the difference in philosophy of going after offensive linemen, I agree with your take that if you can block at the group of 5 level effectively, you should be able to block at the power 4 level. But Auburn went heavy on guys like Gunnar Brenton and Dylan Wade that were group of 5 kids, right? This year, they go get a Virginia Tech tackle who was rated the highest rated tackle in the portal. And oh, by the way, he's a left tackle, which you got to love, the most important position. And then they get Murphy from USC, who plays right tackle and guard. He can slide to play some guard from USC, the California USC. 2 power 4 tackles that both started. In the case of Chaplin, 3rd team All-American. In the USC kid, very highly rated, made like 30-something starts. I don't know. It remains to be seen if taking the philosophy of going after power 4 offensive linemen is different than going after the group of 5. Not to say there's anything wrong with that. Auburn's had them play successfully in the past, but it's a different approach. Both highly rated, and they're in the line for one more, which to me is going to create a huge log jam around the offensive line. But that's okay, because of the competition, putting the best bodies out there. It's going to make the most effective offensive line that Auburn can run out there.
Next up on offensive line is our guy Mason Murphy from USC. Speaking of Power Five kids or Power Four kids, Power Four just feels
It's
wrong off
hard.
the
It's
tongue.
hard, especially when you say USC. You immediately I go to Pac-10. I'm that old, and I think that, right? So yeah, it's hard to say get used to Power Four.
Mason has made the decision to join the Auburn Tigers. We all know that Auburn is bringing in Jackson Arnold, and protecting him seems to be a priority for Hugh Freeze and his staff.
Absolutely. But you can't give up run blocking superiority either. Now, I know that guys like Jeremiah Wright and Dylan Wade were really, really rated high as far as some run blocking. But where Auburn needed a little bit of help the last couple of years was protecting your quarterback, especially from the blind side for a right-handed quarterback, which will obviously change in a couple of years when you got a left-hander slinging it. So I think that's important. I think Dylan Wade being able to play his natural position at guard by getting Murphy from USC to play right tackle is a good fit. You've got Connor Liu. Now, is Jeremiah Wright coming back? I heard, the buzz is that he is. We've not seen any kind of portal chatter. And don't sleep on DeAndre Carter, who could get plugged in there as a backup guard. But that's what getting Murphy and Chaplin does for you. A lot of times in the portal, when you look to get a guy, Mike, you look to improve two positions. And getting Murphy slides Wade back to guard, which now improves two positions of strength.
I wasn't in the camp that felt like the offensive line play was so bad this year that Auburn couldn't get anything done. A lot of people point to the struggles at line. I think it was average, and I think that because Auburn had average offensive output to below average offensive output at times, the offensive line was an easy target. But certainly, that's a place where you always want to get better. When we talk about the SEC versus the other conferences, Daryl, we always talk about the difference in the trenches. The big boys up front on offensive and defensive line are the difference between championships and losing championships. And so Auburn is trying to beef up there. Now, beside pass blocking, you need to be able to run block. But who are they run blocking for? We know Damari Alston is returning. Jarquez Hunter is out of eligibility. My sources are telling me, and I think your sources too, Jeremiah Cobb may be in flood. We don't know what may be going on there, but Auburn has decided to go to the portal for Darrell Robinson. Now, there was a lot of smoke around the ULM running back, Hardy. I don't think that's happening anymore. How good of a pickup is Darrell Robinson?
I love Darrell Robinson. I loved him so much that I asked people on the other shows I have to change my name from Daryl to Daryl Dapprich, so that in honor of Darrell Robinson, 6'1", 210, more physical. You talk about the ability to block and run block, and it was never more apparent, Mike, than in the red zone. When you get inside the 5, it's time to stop getting cute and be able to hand the ball off 2 times, 3 times, and score from the 5. Run blocking and road graders do that for you. Robinson is a physical back, has good straight line speed, about 4.5. The UConn locked on guy, I saw him give a really good breakdown on him, but he said that he's a game changer sometimes. He'll just hit that big run, very powerful straight line runner. That's exactly what Auburn needs when they get inside the 10. You got Alston, who can bounce it outside. I think Cobb still has shown the ability, if he stays, to can bounce it outside. And
great
then you're
pass
bringing
catcher as well, too.
Great pass
Daryl.
catcher.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, if you start running wheel routes with him, I think you can eat. And so I think they need to start doing that. And then, of course, you're bringing in Alvin Henderson, who, oh, by the way, just ran for 10,000 yards in his high school career. So I like the running back room if everybody stays put, and I like the versatility. You have a little thunder and lightning there. But Robinson's a guy that's powerful, man. He can break tackles, good straight line guy. So, yes, run blocking, very important, especially if the running back room stays the way it is.
Yeah, before we move on, because I want to end the segment talking quarterback, but and we're sticking mostly with an offensive flavor here on this one. We'll cover the defensive portal guys on another segment. But on special teams, Oscar Chapman is gone, and they've gone out and they've gotten Hudson Cock to come in here and be the punter. Special teams was one plagued Auburn this year, whether it was punting late down the stretch or it was field goal kicking due to Alex McPherson's injury. Towns Mago struggled, at times this year. It felt like Auburn couldn't find a guy who could make a kick, punts were being shanked. Uh, Underrated, but Cox should be able to make a difference here.
He should, because Auburn had a hard time flipping field position.
Yes.
Chapman just got into one of those funks where he was shanking punts. He was averaging 30 yards a punt. He wasn't flipping field position. He was giving offenses the ball on the 40-yard line or at midfield, and that hurts. When you're combining that with missing 35, 32-yard field goals and specialty, Auburn is used from a field goal standpoint. The guys that have been following Auburn football and for a long time will understand when I drop the name Terry Daniel. It's been a long time
Yeah.
since Auburn had a punter. I mean, they checked the footballs for helium. Jackie Sherrill
Yeah. I'm a David Duval guy myself.
he could boom it, but it's been a
Yeah.
while since Auburn had the guy from a punting standpoint that could really change the complexion or flip the field. Now, field goal kicking, Auburn was spoiled. They were used to just Lou Groza Award finalists and guys that could change games and win games, and Auburn had that lacking this year. So when you combine both of those, I truly believe that special teams could have cost Auburn one or two games this year. How big would one of two games have been in the win column?
Bowl game. You're a
bowl game. So you got to address that. And they addressed the punting side. The kid averaged 43 yards a punt. Really good at getting inside the 10. Return yards is a big thing, and people want to make a big deal about return yards. If you punt the ball, Mike, sky high, but it's only 35 yards and the guy doesn't return it and you're netting 35, I'd rather boom it 45 and let him return it 3 or 4 yards and you're still netting better. I want to see a guy go back over his shoulder and catch an Auburn punt every once in a while, right? Backpedaling. It doesn't happen.
Well, I'll tell you, look, you made a good point about if special teams wins you one more game, because I think it's not even in question that special teams cost you at least one game, if not 2 to 2.5, depending on the flow of the game. But if you get that game, you make a bowl game, you get the extra practices, you get those kids more experience. But look, Cox should be able to come in and contribute immediately. Auburn is doing a fantastic job, I think, of addressing direct needs in the portal. When Hugh Freeze got hired, Daryl, he noted how you could flip a roster faster now with the portal than you ever could before. So he puts an emphasis on high school recruiting, but he understands that this is part of the process is working the portal, and certainly they're doing a great job there. Look, let's talk QB, but after a quick word from our sponsors. This episode of the Auburn Express, powered by the War Report, is brought to you by our friends at Los Amigos Mexican Restaurant, Daryl. Visit them at 1220 Fox Run Ave, Suite 200 in Opelika, Alabama. Great eats there, great pillars of the community. They're serving law enforcement, local politicians, everybody. It's also a great place to go watch the game. They've got TVs everywhere. We did a segment live from there last Wednesday. Might go back to Los Amigos tonight to have some food and go live again. But you should visit them again at 1220 Fox Run Ave, Suite 200 in Opelika, Alabama. Let them know the War Report sent you. Look, Auburn picked up Hudson Cock at punter. And look, if you don't want to get cock blocked in the bedroom, visit tryjoymode.com and use code report for 20% off plus free shipping. Daryl shaking his head in the background. I'm loving it. And try Joy Mode. Imagine a supplement like your favorite greens pack that you can put in 6 to 8 ounces of water 45 minutes before you punt, and bam, right? No return. Tryjoymode.com. Use code report for 20% off plus free shipping. Don't get cock blocked this holiday season. Daryl, coming back here.
Thank you so much. Let me just say this. Thank you for so much for not having me on screen when you read that ad.
I love Joy Mode. They're great sponsors. I hope they stay on forever. I'll never get tired of doing their ad reads. Daryl, let's talk QB. Everybody wants to talk QB this offseason. Obviously, Auburn went out and got Jackson Arnold in the portal. He projects to be the starter, and from what I'm hearing of the financial commitment that was put behind him, I don't expect anybody else is going to get first crack at QB here at Auburn. But they also went out and got a guy with significant playing experience in Ashton Daniels. And these guys will project in front of the young guy, Deuce Knight. But I want to talk a little bit about the pecking order in this QB room this spring. I think Deuce is going to be an early enrollee. We saw him tearing it up in the Alabama Mississippi All Star game recently. But what are you expecting to see here in a completely revamped quarterback room? Everybody left. Peyton ran out of eligibility. Walker transferred. Holden transferred, and our guy Hank transferred. We know our guy Zach Blackerby was really big on Hank Brown, and he's gone. What do you think of this new look QB room?
Well, let me say this, and you know this from us having conversations. I was a big Pac-12 after dark guy growing up and following some teams out in Arizona. And I had an opportunity to watch Ashton Daniels, not last year, but the year before when they were still in the Pac-12. I liked him, and I liked him a lot. And I think people are sleeping on him and automatically assuming, look, it is a huge luxury to have a kid in the quarterback room, whether he doesn't win the job. And as you mentioned, all signs say Jackson Arnold. But think of a backup that accounted for all the yards and the touchdowns and the power for experience that he has. It's big. I like the kid a lot. I think he'll still play in certain packages because he is dynamic with his legs, very smart, very experienced. The only problem is, I think it's not a problem. It's a great opportunity for him. He graduates from Stanford, so I do not think he'll be available in the spring. Okay, so that's a little bit of an issue. You can't go into spring with two guys in the way of Deuce Knight and Jackson Arnold. Auburn will still have to take, I think, another quarterback for depth. I like Jackson Arnold. I like his tools in the tool belt. I've heard a lot about high ceiling. I think his floor is a little bit higher than people give him credit for, because I think of some of the things that happened with him last year. The offensive line was abysmal. They were 132nd out of 134th in sacks allowed. Oklahoma was 4 sacks a game. You talk about punting. I think the backup punter and the starting punter was his two wide receivers. That's how far down the pecking order they went, depth chart. So, give him some tools, give him Cam, give him Malcolm, give him Perry, give him some guys, if Auburn brings in some receivers. And I think it's going to be a good situation. But I do like Daniels. I always got the sense this year, even with Hank Brown, and I know people, that if Thorne would have gotten hurt from an experience standpoint, there was a lack of experience in that quarterback room. Not so much next year. Daniels could come in and lead this offense with his attributes and how talented he is. I know the numbers with high interceptions and all that, but he's got the tools. He's toolsy and he's got experience. I think having him as a backup is a big, big boom for Auburn.
I agree with you. I think that experience is going to be key for Hugh Freeze in year 3 because of the situation that he's found himself, largely in part to himself. Right? And you and I have always had honest conversations about this coaching staff and the job that they did in the first 2 years. I have less questions about players, Daryl, and more questions about system and what they're asking the players to do. And I feel like you've got 2 solid quarterbacks here in Jackson Arnold and Ashton Daniels that should be able to get you to 7 to 8 wins next year. 7 is still a little dicey for me, but you're not telling me you can't win 8 games with Jackson Arnold.
I agree. And I think that, everything else that they're doing in the portal, as far as what they're putting around the quarterback position, you take that and you combine that with this recruiting class that's coming, all the freshmen that played this year, which was great, and then bring in the recruiting class that's coming in now. I think it's a trifecta of success that they're setting up for. And the only way this doesn't work, in my opinion, is if people get too caught up in their own schemes, their own philosophies, and don't look around at the personnel in the respective position groups and go, you know what? I know this is what I like to run, or I know this is what my offensive philosophy is, or I know this is what I like to do. But by God, if it takes running it a little bit more or doing different things that are a lot more simplistic in the red zone, to do that, I've always said this, and I know you coach what you have, not what you want. And if your personnel dictates you to change a little bit of your offensive schemes and philosophies, you better do it. And you better do it in year 3, because now is the time to do it. Case in point, if Daniels is a quarterback that is very dynamic with his legs, then don't put a running back in the wildcat position at the 5-yard line.
Mm.
Let him do it. Let him read option and decide whether to hand it to Darrell Robinson or Jeremiah Cobb or Damari Alston. And oh, by the way, when they overplay these running backs, pull it and walk in and strike up the band. That's what could happen with a quarterback that already can run it. Don't reinvent the wheel and overcomplicate things.
I agree. Don't reinvent the wheel.
Yes.
It felt like Auburn tried to reinvent the wheel with play calling at key points in games this season. It did not work out very many times for Hugh Freeze and staff. Hopefully these kids coming in will help them game plan a little bit better, expand some of the things that they feel like they can do offensively, and that will result in a better Auburn offensively. They've got to get to 8 wins. That's the bottom line. And flipping the roster in the portal is going to be a key to making that 8-win total. Quick note before we get out of here, Daryl, Eric Singleton Jr., he was the number 1 player in the portal before John Mateer entered. But still hot on Auburn's board. I think Auburn is still the leader in the clubhouse right now for his services. He looks to bolster an already stout wide receiver room that will premier Cam Coleman, that should unleash Perry Thompson, that will return Malcolm Simmons. And again, we should see the maturation process of Bryce Cain continue. So the Freeze 4 plus Eric Singleton Jr. should be fun to watch next year if they can land the number 2 player in the portal now.
Well, and don't sleep on a guy named Horatio Fields from Wake Forest too, hearing that he could be going to Auburn as well. What I love about Singleton, Mike, is that we did a little snaps breakdown. I automatically assumed he was a slot guy. He played more outside than he did slot last year. Not a 2-to-1, but maybe a 1.5-to-1 ratio. But that's an example where you can take a kid like that, move him inside in the slot because you've got Cam outside. You've got perhaps, Perry outside. Does Malcolm stay inside? Does he slide out? You've got versatility. This Fields kid, I think, 6'1", 205, completely mossed a Clemson defender in some footage that I saw. I like the kid, 4 touchdowns. He's probably going to get better. You can play him outside. The versatility of that is what I love about these Auburn receivers. And I don't know. I don't know where they'll line up in the spring. I knew Robert Lewis was a slot guy, and that's where he played last year. But I think the versatility, Mike, is there in the receiving room where you don't know which direction people are coming, where you're going to line them up. And I love that. And that will benefit Jackson Arnold and Daniels significantly.
Well, I love the versatility of Daryl Dapprich coming on the Auburn Express, talking Auburn football in the portal. Daryl, I want to thank you for joining me today. Before we get out here, tell people where they can find you.
Find me on Locked on Auburn with Zach Blackerby a couple times a week, normal shows. I'm his guest, and then we do the basketball live afterwards. And I do some written work in the barnauburn.com. I do some DAP recaps after some basketball games now.
All right. Go check out the Barn. I think that you guys just closed the $1 special over there at the Barn, but still a great community to join if you like Auburn recruiting news. Our guy Kyle Rush and Daryl Dapp, Zach Blackerby over there doing a great job running that. That's it for another great edition of the Auburn Express, powered by the War Report. If you want more content like this, please hit like and subscribe. We are the War Report on every social media platform. TW Report on TikTok. We're signing off, and as always, Warriors.